And here we are at Luminary Leaders Live. My name is Shelley Harrison, and I'm your host today. And every time we do this production, I have a wonderful guest today. It's a premium episode, and you're going to meet Daniel in just a moment. Like I mentioned, my name is Shelley Harrison, and I want to give a shout out to our show sponsor, Endeavor Mortgage. And Dan Leonard, we want to just thank you for your sponsorship for each and every show. We appreciate you. And Dan owns actually Endeavor Mortgage that's out in Seal Beach, California. So want to give him a shout out there. And I'm going to bring on my guest, who is Daniel Olexa. And hello, Daniel. How are you?
I'm great, Shelley. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. And I'm going to change the picture there. There we go. I wanted that picture instead. All of a sudden it looked unusual, but we're live, right? So anything goes.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I want to just mention that we are so honored to represent you with Luminary Leaders with my company. And we've worked together, Daniel, for a few years now. And we've just seen the evolution of, you've already moved, you're out in it's Sonoma County, which is beautiful. And we'll talk about that a little bit during the interview. And things have really just changed for you in terms of, you have a new credential that we're going to be talking about. And what I really want to start with is you are the trust catalyst. That's something that you are highly regarded as the trust catalyst. Can you kind of share a little bit about that and tell our audience a little bit about you? Because I know we're streaming on multiple platforms, on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and a couple of other places. But I'd love for you to share.
Sure. So the name, the Trust Catalyst, came about relatively recently. And I've always had a calling to help others live better lives. And when I ran screaming from corporate in 2013, came into initially to the helping fields with hypnotherapy, evolved into adding coaching to my practice, which I do more coaching than hypnotherapy right now, but I do both. Depending on what the client wants, and both are powerful ways of creating shift. And earlier this year, I decided to jump out of a perfectly good airplane for the first time. It had been on my radar.
Gosh, I remember that. Yes, I do. I remember that post.
Yeah, it's something that has been on my radar of wanting to do since I was 30. And at the time I had gone back to school. I was a poor student eating ramen. Like, I'm not going to do it then. And it's just been waiting and waiting. And now since we moved up into Sonoma County, there's an airport here in the town we live in that has a skydiving operation. So for my birthday back in March, that was my birthday present to myself.
Oh my gosh. And I hear you don't jump out of a plane. You actually just fall.
Pretty much. You get pushed.
Oh, you get pushed.
They're tandem and strapped to an instructor who you inch toward the door. And then suddenly you find yourself falling. And the moment, I'm scared of heights, which was another reason I wanted to do it. I have had a fear of heights.
Gosh.
And I stayed really calm on the way up. It was a tiny airplane. And at 12,000 feet, when the door opened, I felt this tingle go through my body of like, the stuff just got real.
Yeah. It's like,
the door.
You know what? I have to get out of this plane and have your parachute just pop open, and then don't you go up instantly?
Yeah, you kind of just stopped. It was really funny. We in that first moment, and this was the moment the Trust Catalyst was born. Sliding toward that door, and there's a platform, maybe like 5 by 24 inches to step onto under the wing. And my first foot went out, and my second foot said, "No, we're good."
Oh.
And then I was able to get it convinced to come out. And the next thing I know, I'm pushed. The two of us are falling, and the instructor did a tuck and roll. So as we're falling, I'm watching the plane go this way away from me.
Oh my gosh.
Screaming my head off. And then it was suddenly like, why am I screaming? There's nothing to be worried about.
You're safe.
We're either going to land and I got nothing to worry about, or we're going to land. Nothing to worry about. And it took me into that space of that moment of decision between trusting everything's going to be okay and opening up to something new, versus had the other foot won, I would have embraced the fear of not doing the new thing and staying safe, and I wouldn't have gained the experience. So I recently had little coins made to give to my clients that are trust and fear are two sides of the same decision.
Oh,
One holds you
how
back,
cool.
one opens up into the future.
Oh, that's a genius idea. And as the trust catalyst, a lot of people look at trust as though you have to earn it. And it's something very sacred because not many people can be, instantly trusted. It takes time. And for you, the way that you work with people, and I've seen you in action. I've I was there. I introduced you for your Sue Talk, which is, if those of you who know TED Talks, it's very different because it's with an organization in terms of connected women of influence. That was the most enlightening Sue Talk that you gave, and I was just so honored to present you on stage. I mean, what was that experience like? I mean, here you are, you're sharing your soul on stage.
I remember being up there, and I remember my
Mhm.
wife being in the audience, and she didn't know she was part of my talk. I had intentionally and very actively kept the entire thing from her so that she would be surprised.
Yeah.
The funny thing I remember out of it more than anything else is I followed the two Sue Risers, the teenagers who were there.
Yeah.
And the girl who went in front of me was so good that I was scared to follow her. I'm stepping up on stage. Am I going to
Oh.
remember my speech? And it all flowed so well. So a little bit of that, again, it comes back into trust. The imposter, even for me, started to
Mhm.
creep forward of like, can I follow her? Am I good enough?
Yeah,
And
and
it,
you were. Oh my gosh. I mean, it was powerful, when you get up there on stage like that, and it's rehearsed, you have to rehearse it. And I wanna give a quick shout out, Vaughn Foy, who is a very good friend. I don't know if you know him, Daniel, but he is a saxophone player, and he says, "Wow, great coin." Yes, I agree with you, Vaughn, and it's great to hear you here.
and if Vaughn
Uh,
sends me a message in LinkedIn, if he connects with me, I will mail him one.
oh, awesome. So Vaughn, make sure you get that over to Daniel. Yeah. Um, so gosh, going back, I think, this Sue Talk, there's a lot of preparation. And when you gave it on stage, it was real. It was like I was on the edge of my seat, like, oh my gosh, and it was just you pouring the story out. And I know that Sarah, your wife, she was just so touched, and I saw it in her face because I was at the same table. So it was awesome, very, very awesome.
Thank you. There
Yeah.
was so much emotion that came forward as I was remembering those events to be able to connect to them in the speech, and then feeling all the feels while I was there and sharing it all.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not easy, when you're doing it in front of a live audience, and it's your own story, you
Mm-hmm.
know. It's harder to do. And, speaking of being on stage, like I mentioned earlier, Luminary Leaders, we're so proud to be able to represent you. And with speaking as a keynote speaker, share with us a little bit, Daniel, when you're on stage, what is it that you really want the audience to embrace when you're giving, whether it's a talk, a presentation? Tell us what that looks like for you.
So much of it for me ties back to empowering the individual. So when I'm talking to that audience, it's about helping them to remember who they are and all the strengths and the power within them that they may have forgotten, or
Mhm.
that they're overthinking and deferring it to other people, feeling like life is happening to them. And what I want them to
Yeah.
come away with is they can happen to life. They can come forward and take action. And so much of it ties back into trusting our intuition, getting reconnected to it. Doesn't have to be spooky woo woo. We
Yeah.
all have those gut feelings that we tend to disavow, which is what Malcolm Gladwell writes about in Blink. We
Mhm.
feel it, and then we go and do the other thing because we overthink it or overfeel it, and we don't trust our gut. And then we
Mhm.
look back and say, why didn't I do that? So what I want to help people do is get back to remembering just how true and real that gut intuition is to guide them forward, whether it's in their personal life for greater success or in their business life. And the biggest
Yeah.
thing out of all of it is to slow down. We run too fast. We're too distracted by too
We
much noise, and
do.
it gets in the
Yeah.
way of this wisdom right here.
That's right. That's right. And like you said, just slowing down, I think, can really help people so that, because we have such, anxiety sometimes. And I think a lot of people, they get so caught up in all the chaos, and they don't just stop and breathe. And I know, you as far as your recent accreditation, you have your new MCC accreditation. So can you talk about that a little bit? Because I know that kind of gets into, the coaching and the consulting that you do.
Yeah, so the MCC stands for Master Certified Coach. It's the
Mhm.
highest credential with the International Coaching Federation, the ICF.
Congratulations, Daniel. That is
Thank you.
phenomenal. Yeah.
And they're the gold standard in overseeing coaching, because right now coaching is a non-licensed field.
Yeah.
ICF's been around for 20 plus years, bringing self-regulation and standards of practice to the industry. So I started officially in coaching 6 years ago. Next month, it'll be 6 years ago in July. I took my original
Oh
training.
my gosh.
I now teach for that company, and just earning the credential in May. And what it means is I have over 2,500 hours with clients, that I have over 200 hours in specific training, and have been through a lot of mentoring to carry myself forward to be able to hold the chair and be in the coach's chair with that level of presence.
Yeah, I mean, 2,500 hours, that would be exhausting, but in the same token, this is your passion, and you do this flawlessly when it comes to working with your clients. And I would think, doing the coaching that you do, it's something that, there's a lot of deep work that is involved in this. So what kind of, not necessarily your target audience, I don't want to put it that way, who are the folks that you work with, and who would absolutely benefit from the work that you do
I
in
find
the coaching arena?
I find I work with a lot of either entrepreneurial minded
Mhm.
or sales reps, in particular, in sales
Sales
teams,
reps. Yeah.
who are the quintessential go-getters. They make things happen.
Mhm.
And when they fall into those stuck points of doubting themselves, or they're not seeing results, that's when I come in to work with them and we figure out what's getting in the way. There was a
Mhm.
prospective client who had called me probably 9 months ago, and we were talking just to see about, are we a good fit together?
Mhm.
And at the end of that conversation, this person said to me, "So why should I pay you what you charge? Because there's other people out there that charge a lot less. What makes you so
Mhm.
different?" And my response was, "I don't care about your problem. I care about you. And when we
Mm.
understand you and we solve you, the problem is going to go away." And that's where I'm focused.
Yeah.
And they were like, pretty much said, "Shut up and take my money."
Oh my God. Yeah, because people really don't understand, when it comes to the pricing, they have to put that price to the side and look at what is it that this particular coach, like in this case you, what is it that you bring that differentiates you from all the other coaches that are out there? Like you said, you had to have 2,500 hours, 200 hours. I mean, there are a lot of things that went into that certificate or that credential. So what do you think, Daniel, is, I know with the pricing, like you pointed out, it was, you're going to focus on them. But what is it that you think really differentiates yourself from a lot of the other coaches that are out there that might not be at the same level as you? Maybe they're, not as credentialized, or maybe they don't have the number of hours of experience, but what differentiates you?
More than anything else, I honor that my client is the expert in their life.
Hmm.
I don't know anything about their life. They know it. They're living it. But that imposter that we talked about comes forward for all of us, and sometimes the volume gets turned up loud on that. And when I sit with someone and I'm in the coach's chair, I see them as a whole human being who has all the answers, and that's how I hold the space for them. I don't
Yeah.
care about what adjectives or notations they put after their name. That's
Hmm.
all labeling that can become a distraction. I care about who they are as a whole person,
Yeah.
and help them reconnect to that wholeness for themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, that is priceless when you think about it because a lot of people, they'll go to a coach or a consultant and it's kind of cookie cutter, where they use the same routines, they use the same disciplines, the same techniques, and this is very customized. It's customized just for your client. And I would think that it's much more valuable to really, I mean, I look at myself, if I had someone like you coaching me, I mean, there are some things that I have, I would probably never jump out of a plane. So how would you talk me through, let's say, if knowing that I'm scared and I have this fear, how would you talk me into doing uh, jumping out of a plane?
If it's
Can we do it
one,
live?
yeah, sure. So
Okay.
one, is it something you really want to do?
And that's a great question because I don't, you know, but if
Yeah,
I had to, or it was something that, maybe my husband wanted me to do with him, that's where I would have a problem saying no.
that's a different issue.
Yeah.
That's saying yes when you really want to say no. That may not have anything to do with the skydiving. So I would
Yeah.
then say, tell me what's really behind deferring to say yes when you really don't want to say no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably
And
got that backwards, but
no, I mean, just the first question you asked me was like, "Oh, wow, yeah, that makes sense." And I'm thinking, look at like right now, the folks that are, I want to give a shout out because the submarine that, that was on the mission to go see the Titanic, I don't know what the latest is, but I just feel for all of those people. And I just want to give, their families and all the first responders and people that are out there trying to find them. We hope that that they are able to recover and safely if that's at all possible. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know
hopefully
why,
we,
but I thought I would mention that.
yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully we get some positive news here in the next few
I
hours. I know
know.
the time
I
frame
know.
is getting tight at this point.
It's getting tighter. Yeah. Yeah. But kind of moving back to you, Daniel. I just want to remind people that we're here with Daniel Olexa, and he's got so many wonderful things that he's doing in the work that he does. And this is a premium episode because we do represent Daniel, and he is available for keynote speaking. He also does a lot of training and consulting and coaching. So we definitely want to kind of hone in on, with Daniel and the work that he does. And Daniel, what is it that, that you really want to help people with in terms of just, when you look at life, what is it that most interests you in helping people?
Helping them to live for themselves. I think that's the biggest thing, that it's really easy for us to defer without thinking about it. We start living for other people's ideas,
Mhm.
for serving others, for not taking care of ourselves and putting our needs front and center. And we burn
Yeah.
out. I think we put everything into working for somebody else. We get that low energy and start to have the existential question of what's it all about and why am I here? And I want to
Yeah.
help them reconnect to what is most important for them so that they can be self actualizing, self realizing, and autonomous in their own life, knowing the decisions they're making. And there are no good or bad decisions, there's only decisions. You make the decision, you move forward, the events happen after. It's just the way it is. But
Yeah.
we'll say, I made a bad decision when it didn't turn out, but you made the decision knowing what you knew at the time. So that's a
Mhm.
big part of the conversations I have as well, that with clients, and it's been over the years, a number of them would take an action, didn't go the way they planned, would say, oh, I made a bad decision, I made the wrong decision. But when we really dove into it, they didn't have the piece of information or didn't think the outcome that happened was even a possibility. So how can you beat yourself up for something you didn't know? And
Hmm.
that gracefulness starts to come into play as well.
Yeah. And do you find that, like you had said, sales professionals you work with and different people with, in different industries, do you see a common thread between people that are, that are really needing the support and having you coach them? Do you see a common thread with all of them?
Yeah, if I
Yeah.
was to boil the work that I do, and I could even maybe even broad stroke it into the giving professions in general, whether it's therapy, whether it's counseling, hypnotherapy, all of it, um,
Yeah.
it comes down to the individual having a low sense of deservedness and a low sense of self-worth.
Oh, two very important key things. Yeah.
And then
Yeah. And I
that
think,
begins to then that
oh, good.
begins to impact the self-confidence, self-esteem, and everything else. But
Yeah.
those are outcomes of the lack of worth,
Hmm.
the lack of worthiness feeling.
Gosh. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there that we see among us that we would never know, because of the way they carry themselves, or, the way that they really don't ask for the help. And they're probably really suffering internally, I would imagine.
And we all get really
Yeah.
good at masking out, and I put myself in that category too. I did for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And look at you now, everything that you have achieved. And I know you're also an author. So tell us a little bit about, your author experience and what's going on in that area.
Sure. I produced two books a few years ago. The first one was on a grounded approach to the universal laws of creating and manifesting. So rather than being out in the ether, brought it
Hmm.
down to a grounded explanation. And then the second book was a deep dive into the 21 individual laws. Pretty much everybody knows the law of attraction, but there's
Oh,
at least
yeah.
20 others and how they all work together.
Yeah.
And I realized how incomplete the secret was when I went through some of my hypnotherapy training. It's like, wait, there's 21? I only know one.
Yeah.
And I
You
felt a
mean The
calling.
Secret, meaning the movie The Secret,
The
or the
movie
book?
and the book, well, yeah,
Yeah.
the both, that it focused on law of attraction, which is
Right.
only one component.
Hmm.
And once you know the others and how they play together and how we tend to come at them out of alignment,
Yeah.
like individuals who, and I'm one of them, read The Secret and then said, "Oh, I'm just going to wish for it and everything will be fine." And when it didn't happen, oh, that stuff doesn't work. I used a different word, but that doesn't work. It's a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
But that was why it didn't work, because I was expecting it not to. I came at it with the wrong belief
Mm.
underneath it all. And
Oh, that's
learning,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
the laws are always working. It's
Mhm.
they're working with where we're at. So what energy do we bring to the interaction to manifest the thing that we want out there? And
Yeah.
that's where that lack of self-worth, lack of deservedness creeps forward, because we could say we're worthy and we think it up here. If we don't believe it subconsciously, we will sabotage ourselves.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And when you think of the conscious and the unconscious mind, what advice would you give people? Because I know you help your clients with this, but what advice would you give, just the today on this broadcast?
If you are feeling mentally drained from overthinking, really,
Mhm.
and you have a sense that life could be better, but you couldn't describe exactly what better means at this moment. That was me 10 years ago. Really slow down and to a point even stop doing things. Like, take a pause in life, take that recharge moment and step away, get some
Yeah.
self-care. Also, maybe whatever
Self-care.
your form of meditation is to help
Mhm.
quiet the mind, whether it's just sitting quietly or listening to music or getting out for a walk in nature. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
the formal sitting in lotus position, but that place where you can just drop into a little bit of a daydream state, if nothing else, will
Yeah.
help kind of bring that intuition forward. It'll help slow you down to get you out of
Mhm.
this nonstop churn as it feels, and start making the decisions. You'll find yourself more grounded, because it's hard to
Yes.
make
Oh,
a
I
decision to
agree.
move forward when we're doing this with the energy
Yeah.
around us.
Oh, yeah. And I have to credit you because I never really meditated before. And since we've worked together, I've prioritized meditating, and I use Headspace. So I'm giving a shout out to Headspace. And actually, if you use Headspace, there's one gal on there. And I'm going to have her on the show. She's writing her book right now, and we'll probably have her later in the year from Headspace. So I'm excited for that. And her name is Rosie. So, Rosie, I'm going to give you a shout out. But with Headspace, it's, it really grounds me. And I think, being a mother, being a wife, being a business owner, all of these things, I would imagine that women and men, that have to juggle things like we all do, um, you could just bring that peace to them and really get them centered so that they can, even myself, where I mean, I'm all over the place sometimes, and life is chaotic for a lot of us, but I think it's important to just sit and think and absorb, what's going through your mind.
Hmm. Yeah, because
Yeah.
even that metaphor, we all have so many balls in the air.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
the
Or plates, some people
Yeah,
relate to plates. Yeah, balls. Yeah.
even the jugglers stop performing at some point.
Yeah. Wow. Great stuff, Daniel. And I want to, let our audience know we've got Daniel's website scrolling at the bottom. So grab your camera and grab a picture of the website and visit Daniel. Like I had mentioned, we're so proud to represent you, Daniel, with Luminary Leaders. And Daniel is available for keynote speeches, also for training. And I know you have your topics on your website. So we really want to encourage people to go to the website, take a look at the topics that you cover. And do you want to just mention maybe two of them, Daniel, before we end the broadcast?
Sure, there is the one that is be the CEO of your life, which is taking back control, being that person who's in charge versus the one who's taking orders from somebody else,
Yeah.
or maybe subconsciously taking orders that you don't know you're taking from yourself.
Yeah.
And then the other one is coming soon. It'll be populated in later this week,
Oh,
of stepping into trust and really,
stepping into trust.
you know,
Wow. That
learning.
that will be huge because there's a lot of people, like we talked, there's not everybody feels like they can trust others or trust themselves.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
trusting self is the first step.
Wow.
Can't trust
That'll be a
others until you
great
really trust yourself.
that's true. Yeah, that'll be a great topic though. And the ideal audiences for some of your talks, Daniel, who let's just talk about that real quick. So who would be the ideal audiences?
Small, small and or family-owned businesses, particularly those going through the generational change,
Yeah.
because the generational conversation can be a big part of either making that transition go smoothly or
Mhm.
creating it's a family environment. We all know what that could mean.
Oh yeah.
And sales teams with a very diverse membership. I'm
Mhm.
also a certified DISC facilitator, so we talk into communication styles
Oh
and
yeah.
really understand what each person brings to the table, how that's impacting the others on the team, and
That's
how
a
to
great
come
test.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, that DISC test. I've taken that too many, many years ago. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So those would be my main, but any like a corporate environment of a team, 18, 25 people or smaller,
Yeah.
and or we do them in rotation. But those who are working toward a big goal, both with individual goals within it and the bigger goal for the organization. Um, when we, basic physics, nothing changes unless something changes, and
Yeah.
when the individuals start really believing in themselves and seeing how they might be getting in their own way,
Mm.
things change. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's what I wanted to say earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that I'm glad that you were able to get that in there. Well, gosh, Daniel, again, it has been wonderful having you on the show on this premium episode of Luminary Leaders Live. And last thing that you want to mention to our audience that you want them to know, any particular things that you want to share?
Yeah, I'll go back to something that one of my coaches said to me right as we were ending our engagement a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
And I had come into that particular meeting a little bit stressed out. And his words to me were, the shortest meditation in the world is one mindful breath. And
Oh,
that idea of breathing
mm,
doesn't take 20 minutes, doesn't have to take 5 minutes. Sometimes
yeah.
just with practice, just
Hmm.
that deep breath of I'm taking a minute for me,
Yeah.
and that minute, that intentional minute can be more powerful than an hour of distraction.
Gosh. Though, and that is words of wisdom. That's a great share. Thank you. And I I have to say I do practice that. If I get really worked up, then, I just kind of breathe and work through it. And then it's like, I'm calm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there you have it, audience, with Daniel Olexa. So take those breaths when you get really worked up or nervous or anxious. And Daniel, it's been wonderful. We definitely appreciate you being on the show, and we want to thank our followers, our listeners, and we're live on many different platforms. And you can go back and watch this episode. It's great information that you can hear from Daniel Olexa. And we want to thank you for just tuning in today. Thank you so much. And Daniel, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Love being here.